Step this way for the Spanish Inquisition. Just a little coffee talk, okay, like butter.
And now, broadcasting live on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, this is Elevation 5280 Sports with Matt Mascarenas.
Want me to invite Matt?
Yeah, the whole gang. Matt included.
The Denver freaking Nuggets are the number one seed in the Western Conference, and they are coming for that you-know-what. There is nothing that can stop this team. Strap in with me. It is time to watch a Denver Nuggets championship run.
And Michael Spillin.
All work and no play makes Michael a dull boy.
Yeah, I'm excited for this Denver Nuggets playoff push. I'm excited for the rest of the season, but Matt, they cannot be losing to teams like Orlando on the road, like Memphis on the road, but I'm excited either way, and it is going to be a fantastic finish. They are almost in the exact same championship window the Avs were in last year. And speaking of the Avs, do not count them out just yet.
Matt's an okay dude, but he's a dummy.
Michael!
Oh, that's funny. Michael!
Now, Matt and Michael are on.
And welcome into Elevation 5280 Sports here on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network on this beautiful Sunday morning. Hopefully, Matt, these dumb, overcast, sleet days that we've gotten the last couple weeks are in the rear view. Just like Game 1 of the Nuggets Suns in the rear view, we will talk all about that statement in Game 1 with just Jamal, don't call me Bubble Murray, just going off in Game 1. Statement win for the Nuggs in that one. We got a Game 7 later tonight, Matt. Avs and Kraken, and it's going to be rocking at the Sack, Matt. And we will get into that. A couple of basketball games today as well. Another Game 7. The Kings and the Warriors will fight for their right to party with the Lakers, Matt, in that one. And then we have Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semis between, we haven't even talked about the Bucks getting eliminated. We will get into Giannis's viral press conference that he went into. And then we will obviously recap the Broncos draft and maybe dish out some grades for them as well. We were supposed to be here, hopefully in a couple minutes, to be joined by Myron McLaughlin. He is a new hockey guy over at the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, so hopefully he will be joining us here in a couple of minutes. But Matt, I will be honest with you, did not watch 1 minute of the Avs game on Friday night just because, well, you know, we're all into. I am superstitious. I'm not a little stitious, Matt.
Yep.
I am probably stitious to the max, if you will.
Max Stitious?
Yeah.
I agree. I'm right there with you. Like we were talking before we got on here. I haven't watched an Avs game since maybe Game 2. And the biggest reason is that right? I don't watch hardly at all. And when I do watch, they start losing. I'm not going to be responsible for that. And you even gave me authorization, to watch it the other day, last week after last week's show. You said, "Yeah, hey Matt, go ahead. You can go ahead and watch it." I tried to watch it. Nope.
Bad mistake.
Ain't gonna work. So if they win, they get the dub, they get the series win. Maybe I'll try the next series. But yeah, I'm right there with you, dude. I'm not watching them. And I didn't watch game 5 of the Nuggets either. I listened to it on the radio because I knew it was going to be one of those games, and I know the way I watch games, it wasn't going to work. So yeah, I'm Max Stitious too, just like you, dude. Max Stitious.
Yeah. So, and man, it was probably the most, watching. It is safe, Matt, to go back and watch the highlights just to see what went on. And it was probably their most complete game. Now, it's crazy because we will get, maybe when Myron hops on, he should be hopping on here in a few minutes. The Department of Player Safety is an absolute joke. And it's crazy that Makar's shoulder-to-shoulder hit on McCann in Game 3 was warranted a suspension, probably because McCann didn't get up and skate away, and he is the Kraken's leading goal scorer.
Yep.
And obviously Makar got suspended. They go on and lose lose that game that he was out and come back and you win game 6. Sorry, he got the hit was in game 4. Sorry, he was out game 5. Avs came back, won game 6. And so, and more and more, oh, maybe not more and more, but some more information is coming out on where in the world is Val Nichushkin and this Russian chick that was found in his hotel room. That just it's just getting weird at this point, and still no word on, forget Seattle or Colorado, Matt. Who knows if he's even in the country? We don't know where he is. It's where in the world is Carmen Sandiego all over again. And so that story keeps getting weird, but the hit on Cogliano, I don't know if you've seen the replay, and all over Twitter, Matt, is just blasting the NHL player Department of Safety. And I'll read you this tweet when Myron hops on, but Megan Angley from DNVR Avalanche spoke to somebody from the Department of Player Safety, and the answer she got back, Matt, was absolutely garbage, trash. So we'll get into that. And are you phasing, Matt, right now?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm about ready to go into the Matrix. Apparently,
he's phasing. He's going into ultra hyper speed or something like that.
I don't know what's going on, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's going a bit crazy right now. All right, we're gonna have Myron hop on here right now. So let's bring him on.
Hey, I can't hear you guys. Give me 1 second here.
All right, we'll wait till you can hear us. But Matt, yeah, it is just crazy, the story with Val Nichushkin and then Cogliano's hit. We don't know what's a legal hit anymore. We don't know what is, because literally, and I'll give somebody credit because he was playing the puck, and maybe the puck wasn't near him, and maybe I'm just incorrect here, but he just hit into the boards. Defenseless player didn't know the hit was coming, and he got up and skated away and finished that game, Matt. So I don't know if you can blame the Avalanche medical people for letting him play. Turns out he has a fractured neck.
Well, he's like Kurt Angle. Like Kurt Angle won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. He won the WWE championship with the broken freaking neck. And Cogliano's in here continuing playing games with the broken freaking neck. So yeah, it's freaking crazy. All that stuff going on. And isn't it funny that we're looking at the NBA as an example of what's what as far as physicality and fouls and suspensions and stuff. And then when it comes to the National Hockey League, you would think that they'd have their crap more together more than the NBA does. But this not going from what Makar got to what this guy didn't get. It wasn't even a review. They didn't even look at it to see if he should. Yeah, that's something. That's something.
As we welcome in Myron McLaughlin here, one of the new Avs guys, hockey guys on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Myron, how you doing this morning?
Good. Had a little bit of computer trouble there for a minute, but looks like we're up and running and good to go.
If we don't have computer troubles on this show, then it's not a good day, because
not a good day.
I don't know how much tech issues we have every single morning that have us running late. It's basically normal for us at this point. So you're not alone.
Well, I figured I'd stumble out of the blocks and have a slow start, just like the Avs have done in the last 6 games. But hopefully that changes tonight.
Yeah, and we thought it changed in Game 6 when Byron scored that goal. And then it got called back on an offside. So you're like, oh, I guess they didn't score. And then sure enough, a few minutes later, Kraken go down and score the first goal. But turns out, and Myron, we were just talking that we are beyond. We're not a little stitious. We are past superstitious. We are like ultimate stitious on this show. So we will not watch games because of it. So I will be honest. I did not watch 1 minute of Game 6 because of that stitious that we have. And it turns out it was their best all around game.
Yeah, they sounds like looks like they were finally playing with an air of the season's going to end today if we don't step it up a little bit. And it finally looks like they kind of jump-started themselves a bit and came out really controlling the game from the puck drop from the get-go. And again, the offsides, and then, Kraken go down and score right away. And it kind of gives you that feeling of, oh no, here we go again. hopefully, and I don't know what happened there. Has anybody seen the replay of what they actually saw in that offsides call? Because from the angle that you see it on TV, you can't tell that puck's offside. So I have no idea how they came up with that decision in the first place.
Some of the guys on the local radio here saying it was pretty clear offsides. Obviously, I didn't see it because I was scared to watch it. So I couldn't tell you, but it and if you are ultra-stitious like we are, then you are safe to watch the highlights. And so that's that they don't show that really they show the goal being scored, but they don't really show the offsides as it was taken away. Myron, we were just also talking about this, and we won't get too much into it, but this Val Nichushkin story just keeps getting weirder and weirder as nobody knows where he is, and forget Colorado or Seattle. Who knows if he's even in the country? Some drunk Russian chick was found in his hotel room. She's swinging at fools in the lobby. She eventually gets taken to a Seattle hospital, as we lost Matt there for a minute. And it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. At one of the worst times you can lose one of your best players, Val Nichushkin is gone. And it would just make for a crazy storyline if all of a sudden he shows up for Game 7 tonight. I don't know if that's going to happen. What have you made of all this? I mean, is it time for the team to, I want to say get out in front, but it's almost like the story is getting out in front. Then the Avs should have maybe said something by now. I know Bednar's kept a tight lip on it, but should one of the higher ups be coming out and getting in front of this story?
The way the Avs have worked in the last couple of years, at least in the Bednar era, is that they've been pretty tight-lipped about everything, and they'll release the information when they want to. With the reports that are coming out, at least somebody, I think, should say something. Maybe Chris McFarland, somebody, director of PR, needs to step up and say, hey, these are the facts, this is what happened, and put the whole thing to bed. Because the optics of it, at first, everybody was real concerned. Is everything okay? Is it his family in Russia? What's going on? And then you start reading, it has something to do with alcohol. And then all of a sudden it's something to do with alcohol and a lady from Ukraine, Russia, who is blacked out drunk at 3:20 in the afternoon, swinging on people in the lobbies, and so drunk that they couldn't call her a cab or an Uber. They actually had to call 911. And it sounds like no charges are going to be filed against the lady, but at the same time, it's a wild story. And I think somebody needs to come out and at least head off all the rumors and just say, hey, here's the facts. This is what happened. We're moving on. And if he's back for round 2, if they move past that round 1 tonight, who knows? But yeah, they definitely need to come out and say something at this point in time, just to kind of put the rumors to bed and stop the drama that's surrounding it at the moment.
Yeah. And if there's sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I know we're going into a Game 7 here, but did this whole situation, did it kind of play and I got kind of disconnected there, so I don't know if you guys already hit this, but did this kind of play a part in the way this team has looked and played going these past couple games? I mean, if we really, is there more to it? Like, it's just all weird and crazy, and the timing of it was just awful. So I just wonder, like I said, I know we're going into a Game 7 now, but this could have played some issues with the way this team has been playing.
I honestly think it has. I think it's been a huge distraction. And I know, they're going to say these guys are professional athletes. They can get past distractions, but I don't know. I don't know if guys are looking at Nichushkin like he's letting us down by all this, or it's just an unfortunate situation. Because now, Matt, remember we talked about after that was it Game 2 or Game 3 win without Nichushkin, that press conference was just weird. Remember, I was saying that. Now it's all kind of making sense. And Myron, I don't know if you saw that Bednar press conference after that win, where it was the game where they announced Nichushkin wasn't playing after puck drop. That Bednar press conference after that game was just weird. Like, he was pissed, he was mad, even after a win. It just seemed eerie. It was just weird. And I don't know. And now it's all coming to make sense because of all of this. So, and if there's no charges against him, I don't know why he can't come back to the team. My question is, and I don't know who can answer this. They said team officials were going to check on Nichushkin and found that girl in his room. Why are they going to check on Nichushkin? Do they check on every player? Was there a reason why they were checking on him specifically? There was nothing in this report that I've read from everybody that's putting it out that there was any loud noises, no screaming, no nothing. So why are they going to check on him?
Yeah, and I wondered that too. I don't know if maybe he was drinking on the plane ride to Seattle. I mean, he had that big game 2 where he scored the tying goal there in that flurry of 2 goals in 48 seconds. So I don't know if he was out celebrating. I don't know why they were checking on him, but something definitely, I would imagine, triggered them to go, hey, let's go check on him, make sure everything's okay. And then as they enter, everything kind of unravels. And back to that press conference, I believe that was the end of after the game of game 3. And that was a weird press conference. I know he's like, hey, he's gone for personal reasons, which again started all the speculation. And then I forget what the reporter was, but he asked, was it for disciplinary reasons? Which at the time I was like, that's a weird question to ask at this moment. And now looking back on it, I kind of wonder, hey, did he know something before everybody else did? Or because that was a weird question to ask just at that moment. Where's Nichushkin? And I have no idea what is really going on or what Nichushkin was doing. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next couple of weeks, win or lose tonight.
And I've heard, I don't know if this is how truthful this is, but I've been hearing that this woman and a couple places now, like the source, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt because they like to like go down that conspiracy theory road. But I don't know if you guys have seen this, but that the woman might be related in some way to and I sent Mike a joke about this, the office joke with the KGB kind of situation. I'm hearing that Nichushkin is in hiding, like he's hiding out. They got him under wraps. They got him somewhere. They don't even know where he's at. They're trying to check on him and all this stuff. And that's why we're not seeing him. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but I'm hearing a lot of stuff. Again, it's like we've said already. The team needs to come out and say something so we don't make up all these stories and these conspiracy theories on our own. But yeah, it makes you wonder, man. It's like if that because I mean we can't deny that there are ties and issues, that with that kind of stuff out here. So I'm not saying that that's the case, but it makes you wonder if we don't even see the guy, we don't even see we don't even see Nichushkin around, but there's still talk about it, but we don't see him. Like it's just we need to hear something from the team or something like you guys mentioned. We need to hear something so we know what the heck's going on, so we don't come up with this stuff. But I don't know if you guys seen that these conspiracy theories. Now I listen to some shows that aren't credible or I guess more entertainment value, but it did catch my ear, and I did hear it on a local show too. So it's this whole deal is just crazy, just flat out crazy.
Yeah, Matt, when you transported to the Matrix there for a couple of minutes, I talked about, the team kind of needs to get out in front of this and kind of take a lead on it. But now it seems like the story is beating them to the punch as more of these like police reports come out and more people just sniffing around. Even the last press conference, or maybe it was before Game 6. I don't know when it was. It was either before or after. I think it was before. Bednar was just pegged with questions, like 5 or 6 questions. And he basically one-word answers, but one of them was, are you in contact with Val? And he said yes. So he might know where he is and things like that. And, Bednar, again, just tight-lipped about everything. And that's probably being instructed to him not to say much. So, yeah, the team needs to get out in front of this. If there's no charges, no allegations, none of that against Val, then I don't know why they can't come out and say anything and why he can't rejoin the team. Again, like you said, unless the Russian government is a part of this too. It's just been weird, and it's gotten weirder every day. And here we are. I was just telling Myron too, Matt, when you were gone there for a second, that it would just be a crazy storyline if he all of a sudden showed up for Game 7.
Yeah.
Just comes out the John Cena music before the puck even drops. And everybody goes crazy.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. And with Russia and Putin and the KGB, with that country and Putin, anything's entirely possible. So I know it's kind of said tongue in cheek as a joke, but who knows what's really going on there in the real story. So I mean, best wishes to Nichushkin. I hope everything's fine with him and everybody's safe, and the young lady, of course. But what a wild ride it's been for about, 4 or 5 days with this whole story that's come loose.
Yeah, and really quickly, last thing on Nichushkin. I know hindsight is going to be 2020. They give Nichushkin an 8-year, $47 million deal before the season. They basically choose him over Kadri, and you're and honestly, Nichushkin arguably could have won the MVP in the Stanley Cup final last season. So let's keep that in mind. And he scored 9 goals in 20 games. He was one of the best players in the Stanley Cup final last year. So that's why they chose Nichushkin over Kadri. Kadri's older. And guys, Nichushkin only played 53 games this season. He had 47 points. In 82 games for Calgary, Kadri only had 56 points in 82 games. I know it's different situations, but let's just, when it comes full circle and when you look at the big picture, and Val was, dealing with an injury, obviously the contract looks bad now. Again, hindsight is always 2020, but you kind of see why they chose Nichushkin over Kadri.
Yeah.
Yeah, from just a pure hockey standpoint, having that big guy in front of the net, getting rebounds, deflecting pucks, it's definitely been a big loss the last 3 games.
Yeah. So and Myron, I don't know if you're an Office fan, but we always reference the offense here. Here you go, Matt Keith from Rocky Mountain. There you go. We will ask the questions.
Exactly. That's exactly what I were talking about, and I sent you that because we didn't know what the heck's going on, and you're reading it. He was escorted away by security, and that's the first thing I thought. Russian escorted away. That's the first thing that came to my mind. So yeah, right there for sure.
And yeah, again, we'll move off this here, but my biggest question is why were they specifically going to check on Val? That unless they do that for every player, or maybe they go check on because it was right before the game, so maybe they're going to check. Maybe he was running late, maybe he wasn't on the team bus, but I was wondering why they're checking on him specifically. And then he was not even there when they found the chick. So,
and I wonder too if he's on one of those lists because every team, and I think there was a comment too about the Dennis Rodman treatment and how McKinnon was pissed off about this. Every team has some guys that like to go party. They go party afterwards. So maybe he's one of those guys that are on that list that they have to go check on to go check he's there. And maybe that's why they were checking. And maybe there's more to how Nichushkin, does things in visiting towns than we know. So that's something that, going beyond this, hopefully everything's okay with him and the young lady, but going beyond this, that's something to be curious about does he like to party?
Yeah. And she could have been a lady of the night. Who knows?
Could have been
one of them street.
Oh my God. Dwight ordered a hooker.
There you go. I need to tell somebody. All right. Moving on from Val. Before we get into this game 7. The hit on Cogliano, which has now become a big storyline, especially if you follow the Twitterverse and everyone's just mad about this, and that hit honestly was arguably worse than the Makar hit on McCann. Obviously, I think it's all clear now that Cale Makar got suspended because not only was McCann a 40-goal scorer, the top goal scorer for Seattle this season, he did not get up and walk away. And honestly, I haven't looked at the injury report. I don't know what they officially called McCann's injury. I don't know if he's playing tonight, but he did not get up and skate away. Cogliano, who was an Ironman in this league, played in almost 1,100 straight games. He got up and skated away and finished the game. Yep. And then comes out yesterday that he has a fractured neck, so he will obviously not be playing today. And you don't mess around with head and neck injuries, first of all.
No.
And I know they didn't diagnose that injury until yesterday, a day after the game. But it was just a bad play all around. It did get a 2-minute penalty for boarding, but nothing else, no review, and it's all because Cogs got up and skated away.
When you look back on it too, the fact that Makar, you can make an argument Makar was trying to play the puck and he didn't know where it was, and the way McCann kind of went into that corner as hard as he did, you're like, oh. And from the way it came off of Georgiev, it's like, okay, the puck's in the corner and it's just on the other side of the glass, which I don't think that ended up being the case. I think it kind of was, a little bit more behind the net. But at the same time, McCann goes limp noodle and it's kind of and I don't want to, McCarr shouldn't have hit him. It should have been a penalty. You can argue about the suspension, but the way he goes limp noodle, his head whacks the boards and then down on the ice, that's understandable the way McCarr went in there. When a player's hunched over with his numbers at you, you don't shove him head first into the boards for that exact reason. I was worried about this exact injury when as soon as I saw the replay of it, and I figured it would either be a 5-minute and maybe a game misconduct, but definitely a suspension. And when you find out nothing has come down, no fines or nothing, it's kind of mind-boggling whether he got up or not. That's such a dangerous and scary play that it's mind-blowing that there has been nothing from the Department of Player Safety on this. Whereas, McCarr, it was almost instantaneously he got suspended by the next day at noon.
Yeah, and I mean the way McCann fell, going back to that made it look a lot worse than it probably was. And I just hate that everyone says it's a late hit. There was no whistle. It cannot be a late hit without a whistle. If there was a whistle that the puck went into the net and then he went and hit him, that'd be a whole different thing. But the fact that you gave him a 5-minute major, reduced it to a 2 after looking at it in the Toronto League office, and then suspend him with no previous anything for Cale Makar, it's just mind-boggling. And then you hit a guy face first into the boards, and you only get a 2-minute penalty. No review, nobody talking about it, no review, anything, and then just to have him skate off. But again, Cogliano's a fourth-line guy. He doesn't score 10 goals in a season, and he got up and skated away. That's why there's nothing that came of this.
And then just from a hockey standpoint, Cogliano being out tonight is another. That's another. I mean, fourth line guy, but that's still a big hit. He's such an energy type guy. Energy type of
can't watch
yeah, Catherine. Like weird. He's such an injury or such an energy type of guy on that fourth line. It really is a big blow to the Avalanche to have him out. So I don't know who steps up in his place. I know Ben Myers is already stepping in for Nichushkin, took that roster spot. So I don't know who else comes in for that. Do you activate one of the other Johnson or I don't know.
Do you see Curtis McDermott dressing this game? Because a lot of people are saying dress him up, have him just have him target people because Seattle. It seems like they're a dirty team. I don't know if I can label them that, but everyone's saying dress McDermott and just have him hit guys because honestly, McDermott's probably going to get you the same production as Newhook at this point, except more physicality. He's not going to score and he's going to rough some people up. Basically a Alex Newhook without hitting people. So he's going to give you the same thing Newhook does, except he's going to go out and hit people.
Yeah, I think you put him out there just for that factor of, okay, let's keep an eye on him. And that's one more player that, you got to kind of look at out of the corner of your eye, which can, help out a lot. It can help somebody sneak in behind the line or maybe cause a quiet distraction. And then, of course, pucks in the corner, having McDermott come in there and start banging bodies around. Hopefully that'll help win pucks in the corner as well. It could be a big boost for the Avalanche team to have McDermott out there, but at the same time, I'd be very wary of his puck handling. But yeah, I think you can dress him up there absolutely and have him go around banging bodies out there all day.
Do they do that still in hockey? Do you still have the quote unquote enforcers? Do they still put those guys out there as like, is somebody going to go pick a fight tonight? Is that kind of what we're going to see a little bit, or is this too much of a game? If this wasn't game 7, maybe we see something like that, but because it's a game 7, we're not going to see anything like that anymore.
I don't think though. I don't think there's enforcers anymore. And unfortunately, McDermott is probably one of the last few in the league. And I don't know. I doubt they will. That's not how Bednar coaches. That's not really how the Avs play. I think they might dress him just because they're down bodies, but I don't think they're going to tell him, hey, go out and headhunt. I don't see that happening. I think the Avs are a little bit more classier organization than that. Although, they kind of take some shots under the breath saying, Bednar was asked about that hit on Cogliano, and he says, I don't even know anymore. I don't even try because you just don't know what constitutes a suspension, a 5-minute, 2-minute, anything, game misconduct, anything. So nobody knows really what's going on. But I don't see, unless he does it on his own volition, unless even McKinnon's like, hey, just go hit that dude. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see, unless they do it on their own, I don't see coaching or anybody telling him to go out and do that.
Right. And I want to rephrase that. I didn't mean him going out there and sending messages as in an enforcer type of way. Just he's a big body dude, and the physicality of his game could help out a lot as far as that aspect. And again, somebody as big as McDermott does kind of cause you to kind of look over your shoulder. But down bodies, I think he does dress just for that reason. I don't know who else you call up at this point and dress. But as far as fighting in a game 7, I don't think that's going to happen. It's just too much of a big game. I mean, it's win or go home for both teams. So I think we're going to see a hard-hitting physical game. But as far as sending messages and, roughing up players behind the play, I don't necessarily see that happening tonight.
And like you said, looking over your shoulder, maybe Seattle knows that McDermott is that physical guy. So maybe just putting him out here will be a distraction for Seattle. So maybe they will be looking over their back like, oh, man, they got McDermott dressed up. We better watch out. Really quickly, and we'll get off this hit really quick. Megan Angley from DNVR Avalanche posted this on her Twitter. She says she asked the senior VP of communications, John, I'm going to screw up this guy's name, Della Pina, a contract for Department of Player Safety questions for insights into Jordan Eberle's hit on Cogliano. Quote, we don't comment on plays on which we don't assess supplemental discipline. That has been the standard policy since the inception of the Department of Player Safety in 2011. We make videos to provide detailed explanations of suspensions. He explained that every hit in every game is reviewed. When asked if a hit can ever receive supplemental discipline after the initial review, once the information comes to light, for example, like an injury in this case, said, quote, injury only comes into play after a hit has been deemed suspension worthy on its own. So I don't know if they implemented that little rule they had on the Makar hit, but it's because I guess McCann didn't get up and skate away. He was clearly hurt. And because they didn't diagnose Cogliano with a neck fracture until yesterday, I guess. But is it a legal hit or is it not? That's what it comes down to. And we'll get your guys' last comment on this hit.
Yeah, I think it might, going forward in this playoffs, there might be a little what that did is it might warrant a little bit more of a look into situations like this, because like you mentioned, the broken neck didn't come down until yesterday, so they didn't know that immediately, and he got up and skated away just fine, played the remainder of the game, and the other guy didn't. But the fact that so that's kind of confusing, because didn't that penalty in the game, the Makar penalty, didn't it get reduced? So if it got reduced, then would it carry the same the deals that I guess that kind of confuses me in that situation. You know what I mean?
Where I have gripes with this all and is the inconsistency. You have, it doesn't seem like there's any set baseline. It's kind of like they take a wheel and spin it, and whatever it lands on, and seems this time for Eberle it lands on no suspension, clean hit, which is the way they're running it. Is I don't get it, and I don't think anybody understands it. There's no clear, line of which was crossed, and I think that's where they got to kind of step up and say, okay, intent to injure warrants a suspension, especially in a big game like Game 6 of the playoffs. I don't know. George Peros and the Department of Player Safety, somebody's got to come in and do something. And as far as not commenting on plays where a suspension wasn't handed out, that I don't like that line either. On a play like that, you definitely need to say, hey, this is why he wasn't suspended, because the entire NHL and the rest of the world is saying, why isn't he suspended?
That's a chicken bleep answer. It's just, when it comes down to it, like that's just not to comment on that for sure. Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, and if you can go back and review a 5-minute major, reduce it. Why can't everything be reviewed? Why can't be, oh, we got it wrong, let's change it? I mean, that's as simple as it comes down to. All right, let's move on to this Game 7 here really quickly. Obviously, huge game, win or go home for both teams, like we mentioned, and it's going to be crazy at the sack, like we mentioned. You're not going to have Nichushkin, you're not going to have Cogliano now. Obviously, Gabe's been out the whole season, and It was, I mean, last game it was cool to see Eric Johnson score, the Condors flying, and his first goal all season. He didn't even score in the regular season, and when guys like that are kind of stepping into plays and making shots, it's good for the team. And as we mentioned, they played their best all around team game in Game 6. I mean, like you mentioned, it's gonna be a tough physical game. The Avs need to come out flying once again in this one. Georgie needs to be on his game. Do you, Myron, really quickly, do you agree that Georgie has been fantastic in this series? Because there were a couple of games where I'm just like, I don't know if he should have given up that goal. Maybe in the middle of the series, because it seemed like this team was not making any adjustments to what Seattle was. It seemed like Seattle was a one-man advantage basically this entire series. It just seems like they had a guy everywhere. I mean, should they maybe have thrown Frankie into one game just to maybe spark something? Change. I mean, I know Bednar's changed up the lines, but you got to make some adjustments when you're just getting outbeat to the puck everywhere, out physicaled everywhere. I know Georgie played well in the last game, but I don't know if he's been great this series. I know he's kept him in games, but I don't know if great is a necessary adjective I would use for a lot of the time in this series.
No, he hasn't been great. He's been average Georgie, which is an average Georgie is probably it's at least a top 10 goaltender in the league. So why that's there? No, he hasn't, but I think he definitely needs to kind of steal the game tonight. I kind of look back to Game 2 when the Avalanche came out. I think they tied it at 2, and then Seattle had that 3-on-1, and Georgie made that incredible stick save moving to his left on Beniers. I think it was Beniers going to Eberle. Either way, he made a great play, and I think that's something, I guess I gotta go back to, would you rather have Georgie or would you rather have Kemper from last year? And Kemper last year, even though they got to all and won the Stanley Cup, he gave me a heart attack about every other play. Georgie, on the other hand, I'm confident in his ability. I don't think Frankie and net would be an upgrade. I think it'd kind of be a downgrade. And at this point in the season, it's win or go home. I think Georgie definitely needs to be there. Haley, get out of the picture, please. There's my daughter. I think Georgie definitely needs to step up and kind of shut him down tonight. But at the same time, that kind of goes back to the defense needs to step up and kind of keep Seattle away from all those wide open chances. Every time I look, it seems like they have an open guy kind of racing to a puck, winning open puck battles. And I think that's where, the Avalanche can help out Georgie the best, is kind of winning battles in the corner, stopping those loose pucks, and just playing solid defense in front of him and not letting those wide open shots get a body in front of him. I mean, if you look at the last couple of games, it seems like Seattle stuck a man in front of the puck every other shot, and those guys got to be black and blue. But at the same time, I think the Avs kind of got to step up in front of Georgie, and hopefully he can still win tonight.
Yeah, and you always hope that from your goaltender. And I think the Avs won in spite of Kemper last season. And I guess he was serviceable. And the reason I bring Frankie up, because he was 6-0 in that playoff run last year. So, and I know he's coming off an injury where he missed, pretty much 90% of this season. And at one point, the Avs were just in 3 goalies because they just didn't know. You had Kincaid up, you had Frankie up at times. I mean, there was just guys. Kincaid played a game with his yellow guard pads from where he came from. So it was just all over the place as their backup goalie. And as I mentioned, kind of heading into the playoffs, Myron, is like, man, Georgie it was a quiet 40 wins for Georgie this season, because I don't think anyone was expecting 40 wins from Georgie, at least this season.
No, and I think if Ullmark doesn't have the season he has where he's the clear Vezina winner this year, I think Georgie needs to be in that conversation. But with Ullmark having the year he can, you just can't have that conversation about anybody without obviously giving the nod to Ullmark. But yeah, Georgie's definitely been a top 5 goalie this year, if not a top 3. And any other year, I think it's a race to the Vezina. But again, Ullmark and Boston just having that incredible year.
Yeah, and shout out to Florida for pushing Boston to the brink as they will play games. I'm telling you, that President's Trophy is a curse. So I think we're all in agreement on that. Really quickly, Myron, we'll let you run here in a couple minutes. Who needs to step up to? I mean, we saw JT get that shorty a couple games back. That was huge for that game. I mean, who needs to step up? These third and fourth lines have, for the most part, I would say for about 90 to 92% of this series have just been silent. They've gone quiet. And I mentioned New Hook earlier. You don't have Val on that second line, but that second line, when you're mixing, Miko between first and second line just to try to even things out. I mean, that third and fourth line just has been, again, I don't want to say absent, but for the better part of this series, they have just been bodies out there skating. I mean, there seems to be no production. So who do you see maybe predict scoring a goal, or just who do you need to see step up from those secondary lines?
Well, obviously, your big three need to step up and play as they have been all series. Rodriguez has been a huge piece in this series with the way he's playing physically, pushing the thing. I think New Hook needs to get it going a little bit this series. I think he's a young and up and comer, and I think it's about time he starts kind of putting his foot down and saying, hey, this is what I can do, and I'm here to stay. So I think New Hook needs to push it. And I think if I had to say one, I think it's going to be Lekkinen. And I know he's played huge this series, but I just keep going back to Lecky kind of getting in front of that net. And I think with Nichushkin being out, Lecky really needs to kind of play the role of two men tonight, himself and then Nichushkin. As far as from that third and fourth line, I think they do need to step up, but as long as they're not making mistakes and turnovers in the zone, I think they can, beat Seattle. But as long as the third and fourth line, would it be nice to see them score a goal or two tonight? Yes. Was it possible? Yes. Will they do it? They haven't done it all series. So as long as they don't make the big mistake and lead to a breakaway goal or anything like that, I think the Avalanche will be all right and squeak out tonight with me. I'm going to go ahead and say 4-2.
Seems reasonable, especially in front of the home crowd. If they played like they did in Game 6, once again, this team is very hard to beat. Our last question for me, anyway, Myron, and that's, even if Seattle's obviously given them a lot of trouble this series. I don't really think anyone expected it. Granted, I don't know how many of us are watching Seattle Kraken games all season long, but I don't think anybody expected this. If the Avs were to move on, Edmonton just moved on. Dallas is waiting for the winner of this series. I mean, even if you do move past Seattle, do you see this team getting even further than the second round? Because we saw Edmonton last year. They really haven't changed much except for their goaltender. Let's face it, Mike Smith was a shell of himself last year. I mean, do you even see them getting past the second round if they were to get past this round?
The way this season has gone with this team, it's almost like a coin flip. It depends on which Avalanche team will show up. If it's the Avalanche team from games 1 through 5, no, I don't think they can beat Seattle. If it's the Avalanche team that we know that can play hard and play like they did in Game 6, then yeah, they can definitely beat Dallas. At the same time, though, my heart says yes, my brain says no. They've just dealt with so much from this last year as far as injuries and adversity. And then let's not forget they won the Stanley Cup in the end of June, took July off, and we're right back at it to August. So they've been playing hockey for almost 20, 21 straight months. These guys are exhausted. And I think they're just kind of at the rate where they're gassed out. But at this rate, who knows? It depends on which team is going to show up in the Dallas. If they win tonight, what team shows up in the Dallas series? Is it, the Avalanche from 1 through 5, or is it Game 6 Avalanche? And if it's Game 6 Avalanche, they can give any team a run for their money if it's Game 6 Avalanche. And I think, if it's Game 6 for the next 3 series, they can definitely win it. But that's just so hard to do with so much energy that they've given in the last, almost 2 years.
Yeah, right. So we all hope that it is the Avs from Game 6. Myron, we want to thank you for taking your time out. Hopefully we'll see more of you on not only Elevation, but on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. So thanks for taking the time this morning to talk Avs.
Thanks, Ryan.
No problem, boys. Have a good night. Good day. Bye-bye. All
right. Once again, that was Myron McLaughlin, the new Avalanche guy here on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Yeah, Matt, you hope it's the Avs from Game 6. You hope that, maybe I don't want to say you hope the Avs send messages physically, but I wouldn't be mad if McDermott went out there and roughed some people up.
I want that to happen because I'm old. I talk about this all the time. Anytime we get hockey discussions, I love that type of hockey. I know it's not feasible anymore, but I love that because then you don't worry about if this guy's going to get suspended. If this guy's going to get suspended, there's a guy that's going to go and what do they call it? Ice justice. They go and they police themselves. That was the biggest thing about the NHL. Was that you have any issues that the teams police themselves, but then it got too gory, it got too bad for them. So I'm kind of hoping that McDermott kind of goes old school goon. And I mean, it would be entertaining, would it be good for hockey? Probably not, but it would be entertaining as hell. Let's just say that. That's for a old school goon lover, like a Neanderthal like me. I would enjoy that type of hockey. I would. And
like I said, I think they would just do it out of their own volition. I don't think Bednar coaches that way.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to go out and say, hey, hurt this guy or hit this guy really hard. I think they would just do it just out of hate for Seattle at this point. So
because I mean, you remember, Mike, when you would like this guy, if this guy did something like Joe Sakic, for example, if somebody hit Joe Sakic or if somebody did something, Scott Parker was coming. You knew, God, who else was that? They had a couple of, was it Olzelinch back in the day? They had a couple guys that were just, those guys are coming, and it's something that we don't see very much anymore. But like you said, I don't think it's out there where Bednar is going to tell him to go and do this. But for me, from my perspective, that kind of looks like some street justice kind of situation from the whole way it's going. I know we don't do that anymore, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah. And maybe we'll see it. Maybe we won't. Obviously, the Avs need bodies right now. So you may see him dressed up on the fourth line. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that. As I mentioned, the Edmonton Oilers moved on yesterday as well, getting past the LA Kings. They win that series 4-2. Edmonton was up 4-2 in the game with about 5 minutes left. Kings came screaming back, tied it up at 4. I don't know if you saw Edmonton's goalie. I thought it was Mike Smith. Just went to play the puck, whiffed it past, and the Kings guy was right there and buries it in the net. But Edmonton eventually comes and takes the game and takes the series once again, winning that series 4-2. So if you move on, you might see Edmonton later on. Obviously, you have to get past Seattle, and then you'll have to go through either Edmonton or I forgot who they were playing.
Stars.
Yeah, so it's gonna be tough road ahead either way. And again, I don't think a lot of us would have predicted that Seattle would give the Avs this much credit. But then you have Edmonton and Vegas playing. Right. So you got to watch out for those two teams as well. So we'll keep an eye on that, as it'll be Vegas and Edmonton in the second round, and then obviously Dallas and the winner of Avs and Kraken. So
Panthers Bruins looks like a hell of a game too, man.
Shout out to the Bruins for pushing that to Game 7. That's been awesome. And
that I agree, man. That because I'm not a big Boston guy, so anytime I get to stick it to Boston fans, this is our year. The Bruins are finally gonna, I just been hearing that all, and then just to see Florida, the Panthers just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and winning games. It's just awesome.
The second wild card team, by the way.
Yeah.
To get in, and I mean it's good to see.
And then seeing the Celtics struggle the way they did with the Hawks. And it's just music to my ears and eyes to see Boston struggle.
Yeah. Speaking of the Celtics, we will dive into the NBA here. Obviously, Game 1 last night at the SAC. Phoenix enters the building, and Well,
and they get promptly ran out the
I
building.
was just about to say they soon thereafter got ran out of the gym, and Jamal, don't call me Bubble Murray, just
Don't
went
do it.
off 34 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds for Jamal. Jokic, oh my goodness, 23 points, 19 rebounds for Joker. KCP was shooting. When Aaron Gordon is hitting threes, you know it's going to be a good night.
Definitely.
And
he was man, Aaron Gordon. I love having we got some really good players on this basketball team, the right kind of players. Eric Gordon, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, those guys, KCP, Michael Porter Jr. But Aaron Gordon, what he did in that series with Minnesota on the defensive end, foul trouble constantly. We didn't really need his offense. He did what he could with his offense, but the defense is where we really needed him. And then last night, he played good defense. And you played as good as defense as you could on Kevin Durant, but then he scored. He went off on shooting threes, like you said. Yeah. And a lot of Phoenix fans are saying, "Oh, Aaron Gordon's not going to make those threes again. Aaron Gordon's not going to do that." He's been known to drain those threes. If you get him going with lobs and dunks at the rim, that's going to fill everything else up, man. I'm excited for this series, Mike. I really think that I thought this game with the series was going to go 7 games. After last night, and if the Nuggets come out and do what they did again in game 2, man, I don't know. It could be over sooner than that. But I'm excited for this freaking series.
Very excited. And I like I don't know if you saw any of the if he was surprised that the Nuggets came out and did this, and Durant's response was surprised.
Yeah,
I'm surprised on man. They're the number 1 seed they're not the number 1 seed for no reason. Like this, they can go out and take a game like this. And as much as I really don't like Durant, he is, he doesn't talk trash. He doesn't do any of that. Seems to be a good guy. Obviously, I mean, I made this comment watching the game last night. Hey, if the Nuggets knock the Suns out of the playoffs, maybe.
Yeah.
There is that. But, I mean, he was flashing about it, He was like, man, I had almost half of our turnovers. I mean, the way that Bruce Brown was picking his pockets was just awesome to see. And, man, the fast break was on last night. And, again, going back to Gordon, I mean, Durant was on his assignment for Gordon most of the game, and I mean, he was playing 5 feet off of Gordon, and Gordon's just like, all right, I'm gonna shoot it.
Right. And that's what was happening was that everybody was going into this, everybody in the national media or everybody who was picking the Suns. How are you going to stop Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Ayton, and Chris Paul? How are you going to stop? How defense? You make them play defense. You make them play on the other end. That's the best way to do it. Devin Booker isn't as good. He's a good defender, but he's not as good as Anthony Edwards was. And you can see that why Jamal Murray is going off. Jamal Murray's going off. He even had it was Kenneth Walker, I think that was his name. With the Wolves, the Suns don't have a guy like that. They don't have an Anthony Edwards that's going to check him, or they don't have a guy like that other guy to check Jamal Murray. So I think the key to this series is Jamal Murray. There's and the Phoenix Suns. What's Jamal Murray 15-2 against Devin Booker? The Phoenix Suns have always had a problem guarding Jamal Murray, even before they traded all away their good players or their good defensive players. I think you're going to see different players play in this next series to run at Jamal. I think you're going to see more, even though you saw Kugi in this game, but he really didn't have an effect. I thought you would see him more. But look, Shamet is not going to check Jamal Murray. You the Phoenix Suns should just get done with that whole deal. He's not going to check Jamal Murray. There's still, Terrence Ross was somebody. There's Payne that really didn't play until towards the end. I think you're going to see other guys try to get an opportunity here. But the downside of that for the Phoenix Suns is, Mike, and I don't understand how people were still giving the Suns so much oomph and so much pub, even knowing this. outside of those guys aren't scorers. Charles Barkley said it last night. There's not a guy out there outside of maybe Terrence Ross that can go out and get you 20. They can go out and score. They don't have Hachimura. They don't have guys like that, like the Lakers do, that can come out and do that. So I think the Suns may have bit off more than they can chew, because Charles Barkley's deal was last night. He said this, and I agree. And everybody says this. How are you going to stop Booker? How are you going to stop Durant when these guys have to be epic? They have to be good. They both almost scored 30 points last night. They both accounted for, I think, almost 56 or more than half of the Phoenix Suns points, and they still lost by 20, Mike. They still did what they were supposed to do, and they still lost by 20. That is what's the major thing that you're looking at here. And a lot of people aren't seeing is that the Nuggets they're so freaking deep. And I don't know if the Suns can keep up with them.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on it before this series started, and that's we weren't really scared of any big man in the West, besides maybe Anthony Davis.
Right.
And that's rearing its head again because DeAndre Ayton cannot stop. I don't want to say anybody, but he definitely really can't stop Nikola Jokic down low. And he even on offense had a couple of mismatches where they gave him the ball and he just didn't do anything with it.
Right.
I think he finished the game. I don't have the numbers. I'm not looking at the number. I think he finished with like 14 points, but
right. He had 14 and 7.
I mean, that's you need 22 and 12 from DeAndre Ayton to be even close to being in that game. And he just wasn't. I don't know if maybe he was just having an off game, but they need better production from him. And like you mentioned, and I hate to give Skip Bayless credit, but he tweeted out he said he didn't understand why Terrence Ross is sitting on the bench when he can give you 20. He's known to give teams 20. Maybe he's just too old, washed up, whatever. But you got to try, and maybe Monty Williams will make those adjustments, and maybe you'll see more of Terrence Ross and or Campaign in this more of Campaign because he came out and made a couple threes in garbage time, but. You got to do something if you're Phoenix because, like you said, they traded away all their depth to get Kevin Durant on this team. And I get it. You're going to make that trade all day, every day. But you maybe didn't think long term in saying, man, we just traded away our bench.
Because in before you made this trade, and that's why I feel like it made him weaker, especially when you're playing Nikola Jokic. When you trade away Jay Crowder, who was the guy that would come, Jay Crowder could score. He can make those big threes and make those big shots, and he can give. Is he going to stop? The thing is that you're not really going to find anybody that's going to stop Nikola Jokic because we've already seen the Rudy Gobert and the Karl Anthony Towns go at him. That was, and we've talked about this, Mike. That was the big, in my opinion, that series was tough because of those two. Yeah, Rudy Gobert he didn't stop Nikola, but they made what the Denver Nuggets wanted to do difficult, and that's that pick and roll. That screen and roll deal we saw last night. Ayton, even when he popped out to cover, a Jamal when Jamal was making those threes or bouncing outside, or he would even leave Joker alone at the rim. Jamal would still find a way to get it to him. So that's going to be tough for this team. And like I said, Jay Crowder would still come in and he would really get some relief and he could play Nikola Jokic. He could give him some trouble, but he would never stop him. But you don't even have that. You're going to ask who's the big white guy that came in towards the end there? Landale. You're going to ask him to come and play these minutes. Biyombo was supposed to get some minutes. You only got 6 minutes, and that was kind of towards garbage time. And Joker even kind of put it to him too. So with Ayton going and getting in foul trouble, and another thing with Joker, here's the thing: Joker hasn't shot the ball well in 2 straight games. He has not shot the ball. He was 9 for 21 when typically his stat line's like 14 of 15, 13 of 16, something like that. He hasn't shot the ball well. He's missing those inside those bunnies, but he's still affecting the basketball game. So I just and you can see some spurts of defense. I think you're going to see Chris Paul do more of what he did last night. Did you see him come around the corner and jack Joker? I think because Joker likes to sit there looking the other way, and I think if they keep doing that, I think that's something that you're going to see a little tweak. You might see the guards coming over and trying to poke the ball or at least pressure Joker, at least get him to pass the ball sooner. But you can see spurts of defense from the Phoenix Suns, but overall, they don't want to play defense. You saw what they want to do. They want to get up down. They want to score. They want to shoot with the Denver Nuggets. But that's not going to work if the Nuggets are already up 13, 15 points. It's not going to work. So I'm very curious to see what game 2 looks like. I think the Suns lose game 2. I didn't have them winning a game until they got back to Phoenix. So it's still going to go the way I feel like. But I'm curious to see as far as defense, how they come out.
Yeah, and going back to that, Chris Paul sneaking up on Joker, that could all been prevented by at least a little communication, because I don't think anybody yelled, "Hey!" Like pass, or there should have been like, "Hey, coming up on your right!" Like someone needed to yell at Joker and say, "Hey, Chris Paul is coming up." And then speaking of hockey and Chris Paul, he just bulldozes Jamal Murray, which was kind of a cheap play. I want to say I don't really remember Chris Paul being a dirty player, but he was definitely not going for the ball.
No.
Maybe could have been a clear path foul at the most. I don't know if it was necessarily really deemed flagrant worthy. I get the review but he was clearly not going for the ball. There needed to be some kind of heightened call on that play, but it is Chris Paul. He's going to get that, that veteran benefit of the doubt. He hasn't really been known, for being a bully or being a dirty guy. So I get it, but and you can really see in front of our eyes, Matt, that Chris Paul is breaking down. I know he made a few shots, but he cannot run. He cannot run like that in this series. He can't keep that up for a 7-game series.
No, and Chris Paul can still use his smarts. That was a quote unquote playoff. A playoff foul, right? They call those that call is a hard playoff foul, and I didn't think it was worthy of a flagrant, but you could look at intent and say his intent was to knock Jamal Murray down. His intent was to hit him, blah, blah, blah. I didn't think it was worthy of a flagrant, just the foul that he got. Good, hard playoff foul. I tell my kids in middle school to if you're going to get physical and you're going to go after the ball, remind them that you're there. But all that is going to do is piss off Jamal Murray. I don't know why you'd want to piss off Jamal Murray at this point. Chris Paul does that I just call that wily veteran stuff. He does that stuff where he'll have a guy on his back, he'll be dribbling the ball or he'll get the ball, pass in, and you'll have a player coming down the back and he'll throw his backside into him, trying to get the cheap foul. He'll do stuff like I even saw him he grabbed the arm or the jersey. See, I watch a lot of off-ball stuff. A ball went up, rebound was up, and he even grabbed the big by the arm to hold him back. I saw that. Chris Paul does the wily, dirty, little kind of jabs that the vets do when nobody's really looking. So he's done that, and I don't think he's a dirty player. He's just old, wily veteran. That's the way I look at it. But I don't know. Like I do agree with you. I don't know if he can keep up with the Nuggets in this series. Just the way that looked. He's going to make big threes. He's going to make those mid-range jumpers. He's going to get into a pick and roll situation where he does some stuff, but I don't know if he's as good as he has been in the past. And Mike, remember the 2009 Nuggets? I think they beat Chris Paul's. I think he was playing with I don't even remember if they were the Hornets or who the heck they were back then. I don't know if you remember this, but it was almost like 50 points. So the Nuggets have beat Chris Paul, even good Chris Paul before.
Yeah, so we'll see how long Chris Paul can keep this up. Game 2 will be tomorrow from the SAC. And then, Matt, it's kind of strange scheduling. They play tomorrow, game 2, and then they're off until Friday.
For a week.
So they get 3 days off in between, which I don't know if you're playing this well, especially if you play in game 2 like you played in game 1. I don't know if I would think you wanted to keep playing, because we've seen these long breaks kind of disrupt chemistry, kind of disrupt your fire. But I think at least during this time of year, especially basketball, you might need those 3 days off. It's not like they're really off. They're going to have practice and stuff like that. So they will be, moving around. So,
and I've seen people were even looking at that and saying, oh, that's in favor for the Suns because it gives that Booker, Durant going to play 40 plus minutes. It's going to give them a rest. Well, it gives Nikola Jokic a freaking rest. It gives Jamal Murray a rest. It gives Michael Porter, gives these guys that have actually played 40 plus minutes in the entire season. You know what I'm saying? So I do kind of like that rest. I don't think it's going to mess with the disruption. I think after that Minnesota series, this Nuggets team's locked in. I really feel like they're locked in. Even after that game 1, I feel like they're locked in.
Yeah, and I liked Jamal's answer. If you saw right after the game, the TNT crew interviewed Jamal right after the game, and I don't. Maybe there was one smile or one chuckle in that interview, but Jamal was just really not having it. And even after a blowout win in which he scored 34 points, Kenny Smith was like, "Is it Bubble Murray or is it Healthy Murray?" And Jamal is sick of this narrative. You can tell, like, he is absolutely done with this narrative. And he said, "I don't know how many times I have to prove my game to you guys. Like, I don't get why, like, the bubble. I mean, I get it. He played great in the bubble, 40 plus points, whatever. But like, he's getting sick of it. And I don't know if this is fueling his last couple of games, Matt, but he also said, in the presser where they sit down at the table and stuff, he's like, whether I score 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 points, I'm playing my game.
Yeah.
Like, and I loved his answer. Like, I don't know how many times I have to prove my game to you guys, but this is just how I play. So I love that answer from Jamal, and he's sick of it.
He's locked in, man. He's locked in, and it's yeah, they should, they as being the national, whoever keeps calling him Bubble Murray, he needs to be looked at as one of those guys. If you're going to talk about Devin Booker the way you talk about Devin Booker, you're going to talk about, I'm not going to go Jimmy Butler yet because Jimmy Butler's been doing it. But if you're going to talk about guys like that, you got to talk about Jamal Murray too, because I think he's deserved it. He is a playoff performer. He is a playoff gamer. He is one of those dudes, 100%.
Would help if I turn this on. I mean, he said it, like, he's missed the last two playoff seasons, and this is his first time out there, and you miss 18 months, Matt. You get hurt. You get hurt 2 years ago in that before that Sun series, or in that Sun series, and then the Suns eventually go and sweep the Nuggets. Suns in 4 guy, blah blah blah, and these are two different teams. Obviously, you don't have Kevin Durant. You don't have Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. the last few playoffs either. So these are, I know there's some familiar faces, but even Chris Paul. Was Chris Paul on that Phoenix team 2 years ago?
Yep. He was a catalyst to all that. He got them going.
Yeah. And that, Jokic gets thrown out of a game because he's strangling dudes. I don't like Booker's face. So,
that was the whole narrative too. Like that, the Suns couldn't stop Jamal Murray. And if Jamal Murray was in the series, it'd be a different series. And they were right. They were right. Even back then, they couldn't stop him. 15-2 against Devin Booker, man. And the Suns were 12-1 with KD being in the lineup. And then the first time they play a full healthy Nuggets, it's the thing about it is a lot of people are going to say that, well, if the Suns do this, if the Suns do that, KD and Devin Booker amassed almost 60 points just between the two of them. They can't, you can't ask, you want them to play 40 between the two. Like the Suns did what they wanted to do. You couldn't stop KD. You couldn't stop Booker. But the whole thing about this is that they can't stop the Nuggets. Who's on that team is going to stop the Nuggets. That's the biggest narrative around this game.
And if you look at the stat sheet, it's kind of misleading because I think Durant had like 3 or 4 blocks last night.
Yeah, he was tremendous on that end.
Well, and it was on the help side defense. Like when Joker went up, I think on 3 of the 4 of his blocks, or 2 of the 3 of his blocks, Matt, he wasn't even the main defender, so he just kind of came over and helped. It's easy to block a guy when the guy's going up for a layup and doesn't see somebody coming, and that was the case on one. But Joker got the block right back and put it up, and he got fouled, count the bucket. But and then the awareness of Jamal on that breakaway with Chris Paul and Durant on him I like what Grant Hill said when the ball went up, put some English on it.
Yep.
And I don't understand why KD doesn't have more blocks in his career, because the dude is just so lengthy that it's surprising that he doesn't. But again, he doesn't want to get mixed up in the paint. He doesn't want to get physical.
No. He doesn't want to get down there. And you saw, I don't know how many, I think there's at least 2 or 3 takes where there was Jamal Murray was one, Aaron Gordon was one, and maybe even Bruce Brown, where KD just kind of backed off and let him have it. And you can see that dude can play some defense, but it's like you said, he doesn't want to get physical because he doesn't want to get in foul trouble. He doesn't want to get hurt. If those guys, if him and Booker get into foul trouble, I think Booker had 3 fouls last night or something like that. If those guys get in foul trouble, that's even worse. You've seen Ayton, he picked up his 4th foul, and I think you're going to see a lot of Ayton on the bench in the second half. Monty Williams is going to have to just leave him in there to foul out. Look at what they did with Karl-Anthony Towns, fouled out. Rudy Gobert fouled out. That's what happens when you play Nikola freaking Jokic. I keep calling him Nikola Joker, but that's what happens when you play these dudes. And if you're and that now they're talking about KD when they go small, when they went small last night, it playing the 5 when Joker's out, and then you're going to have Aaron Gordon playing the 5 now. I don't know if KD wants any of that smoke. I don't know. I mean, Aaron Gordon was putting Ayton on his back and taking him to the rack. I don't know if there's enough bodies that can out physical the Denver Nuggets with Phoenix. I just don't think there is.
No, and it seems like no Phoenix Suns really wants to get physical. Meanwhile, Jamal Murray, who's kind of injury, I don't want to say injury prone, but it's one wrong move and he's out of there. Same as Kevin Durant. We saw Kevin Durant a month or so ago, hurt his ankle in a layup line before a game. So
right,
anything could happen. But Jamal Murray's out there trying to take a charge. Like, I mean, when Jamal Murray is being physical and standing in the paint trying to draw a charge, and Kevin Durant is backing away from Aaron Gordon and just giving him the 3, but Aaron Gordon, like you mentioned, can take it in and put moves on Ayton in the paint. I mean, Phoenix is not a physical team, and they don't want to be.
They don't. And that's you lost Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder was that guy. He would come in and be physical. Mikal Bridges would be physical with you. And those guys are gone. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people were really looking at this series, and I couldn't picture it. Maybe next season, the Phoenix Suns, but I just don't know. And then they lost. You got Kawhi Leonard. Well, you didn't have to play him those last remaining 4 games, and they still, like, there's so much about this Phoenix Suns team that there's so many question marks out there, especially when you play the Nuggets. I'm more worried about, and I hate to admit this, I'm more worried about the Lakers at this point than I am any other team in this league. And I'm sure we'll probably get into that series, but or the Sacramento Golden State series. But I'm even kind of coming off of Golden State a little bit too.
Yeah, and Kevin Looney's a big body down there, but I don't really see. He's definitely more physical than Ayton. I'll give him that.
Yeah, Looney can be more physical than Ayton. Yes,
and obviously Anthony Davis is
he's the one. He's the one that people call him Joker's kryptonite, and it's because Anthony Davis and Nikola Jokic are very, very similar. Anthony Davis is a better overall aggressive defender than Nikola is, but you've seen Nikola turn up the defense on Ayton, and I think that in that series, if that series happens, if it's the Lakers and Nuggets, I think the AD is going to. I'm curious for that matchup. I really am, because that's the last one remaining, and if the Kings, come out on top and they beat, then I'm not worried about the Kings. It's just you get back into that same situation. Who's going to stop Nikola Jokic on the Sacramento Kings? It's not Sabonis. That dude will be fouled out.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, and I'll give Sabonis credit because he plays physical as well. So until you run into the likes of Looney or Sabonis or Davis, they are physical, but I think that Jokic will still have his way with either Looney or Sabonis. And like we mentioned, Davis is the one kind of standing in the background waiting. And speaking of waiting, the Lakers will find out who they will play by the end of today. 2 early games, by the way. The Knicks and Heat will be today in about an hour and a half at 11. And then the Warriors and the Kings will tip off at 1:30. Winner go home time for that. Really quickly before we move on to the Broncos, Matt, Game 7, Kings and Heat. It was a beatdown almost for the Warriors there in Game 6. De'Aaron Fox playing with a broken finger. Give him credit for being one of those rare, tough basketball guys. Sabonis gets elbowed in the face, and you kind of saw the aftermath of that, playing with a little raspberry on his cheek there. And so Game 7 tonight, Matt, who you got?
Oh, man. I'm going to go Sacramento. They're going to light the beam. I'm going to go Sacramento. There's just something about the Warriors this year. I don't know what it is. Jordan pulls out of it. He looks like a shell of himself, making mistakes all over the place. Curry's, Steph's doing what he does. And I just don't, man, I think Wiggins, I thought Wiggins would come back and change this whole deal, but I think Sacramento, I just can't pick against Sacramento and De'Aaron Fox. I know his hands are hurt, and it's the Golden State on the road. Like, it's hard to pick those guys on the road. It really is. So I got Sacramento. It's going to be a fun game. I'm locked in. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, and I want to say the Warriors, they're obviously battle tested. They've gone through this for so many years, Matt. I mean, it's been 11 years since they've been running with the big dogs. 4 championships have come out of it. They're just battle tested. But again, just like we mentioned with Chris Paul running with the Nuggets, I don't know how much more they can run with this young Sacramento team. Honestly, at this point, it's almost a coin flip for me. I want to give the edge to Sacramento just because they are that young team. They do want to run. They are at home. So I'm going to give the advantage to the Kings. And kind of like Myron said, his heart says yes, but his mind says no. I want to say my heart is saying yes to the Kings winning, but my mind is saying the Warriors will win. And I get that the Warriors haven't been a good road team. They do have a road win in this series, but they only won 11 road games all season.
Yeah,
not good.
They're just bad on the road. Yeah,
but maybe like the Avs, they're battle tested. Maybe if they're pushed to the brink, like both teams are today, maybe that's what is going to stand out is their resiliency and their I guess been there before attitude. But we'll see. I'm giving the slight advantage to the Kings, but it would not surprise me if the Warriors won.
Yeah. I agree that that veteran stuff can come out. It's just there's something off with the Kings, and I think this might be the last year with them looking the way that they do. Klay Thompson's I think he's looking to get paid or that last contract of his career. I don't know. I've heard some rumblings about him not making it. Draymond Green, I don't know if they're done with his BS there. Hell, even Steve Kerr, I don't even know if he's going to be back. So, if this definitely could be the last hurrah for the Golden State Warriors, if especially if they don't win. But I'm going with the Kings, man. I really am. They've looked that series has been fun, and I want to see him keep playing basketball.
Yeah, and maybe one day I'll hit one of these multiple leg parlays.
You're trying though, boy. You're trying.
I'm coming close. Last night, I'll admit I wasn't even close for the Nuggets and Phoenix game. Honestly, I think if it would have been a closer game, because I needed more from Booker and Durant in that. I think if it was a closer game, I may have probably would have gotten it. I was stupid because one of the parlays was Aaron Gordon 15 plus points and Chris Paul 10 plus assists. I was scared because Gordon he's only averaging 13. He only averaged 13 in the first series.
Right.
So I took Gordon out and I left Chris Paul 10 plus assists in there, and that was one of my big mistakes. I should have left. I don't know if too many of us saw Aaron Gordon ripping off 23 points and making 3 threes.
I didn't. I would have penciled him in for that 15, 13, like where he's averaging. I didn't see him going off like that for the threes.
So, and then another game today, obviously the Knicks and the Heat will kick off their Eastern Conference semifinals. Game 1 today, just coming down the line. Julius Randle is out.
Just saw that too. Yep.
For this game with an ankle sprain. So you know what that means, Matt?
That means it's the Heat and it's Jimmy Butler time.
Hold on, I got something for you.
What do you got? Oh, you got one.
There it is.
Sick. That's a sick jersey.
Jimmy Buckets, man.
Man, that's a sick jersey. That's a good buy right there. Heck yeah.
So hopefully, I know your homeboy Stephen A is already picking the Knicks in this series.
He's so obnoxious.
But man, Jimmy Buckets going off against the Milwaukee Bucks. So there it is, Matt.
That's awesome. That is sick. That is a sick jersey. Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't. Man, the Knicks if they've been really. I'm not gonna say. What's a word I'm trying to like inconsistent, because I feel like you consistently kind of got the idea of who the freaking Knicks are, right? It's the Heat that I'm really looking at and saying, are they for real? Like, can they really pull off a deep run in this in the Eastern Conference? Can any one of these teams, whether it's Miami or New York, beat either Philly or Boston? And Philly, Embiid's not even going to be available for the first game. It looks like he's going to be out. So like, can any one of these teams, Miami, and I think the best one that has the most talent or that can do it is the Heat. I really do. You got Jimmy Butler. Adebayo has been playing freaking tremendously. And then don't forget you got Haslam. You got Haslam sitting over there, and Kevin Love has, I'm not gonna say he's come in and just like dominated, but he has entered and played well, done some good things for this team to get where they're at. So being sneaky, I guess you could, if you want to call the Miami Heat being sneaky, even though there's nothing sneaky about them, the way that they handled the Milwaukee Bucks. But I think I would give the Heat the edge because of Jimmy Butler. I know Jalen Brunson's doing what he's doing over there. I just don't believe as much in the Knicks as I would in Miami Heat.
Yeah, and I would say with a healthy Joel Embiid, I think they would be the toughest out. But if he's not going to play for who knows how long, and especially with the Knicks missing Julius Randle, it's definitely going to be a good series. Again, I think Boston's beatable, especially with a healthy Embiid. Without him, I don't know how far Philly goes, but we shall see. So really quickly, I want to get into this before we hopefully have time for the Broncos draft, and the draft happened over this weekend. But Giannis came out after, and I get Giannis didn't play in a couple games, so that maybe have been a big advantage. But maybe he wasn't 100% healthy there in that last game, but he did have like 36 points and a triple-double. So let's keep that into perspective. But he did come out after and say, I don't know if you caught his press conference. It's gone absolutely. It's all over the place. Nike's already made a commercial out of it. He said there is no failure in sports. There's just steps to success, and paraphrasing here, obviously. And, sometimes some years aren't our year. It's another person's year, and so on and so forth. Do you agree? Because Steve Kerr came out and said he agreed. And I like this comparison. I don't know where I heard this, Matt, but everyone at the beginning of the year sets out to win a championship. And you kind of, especially in football, probably by the fourth or fifth game, depending on what your record is, you're not going to the playoffs. So Jacksonville made the playoffs last year after being down for so many years. Their season was good. That's
right.
They probably went beyond expectations, and they made it to the second round, bouncing the Chargers. They lose in the second round, but it was a good season for the Jaguars. I don't know if too many people were expecting that, but their season was a success.
Right.
But they got bounced in the second round. But was their season ultimately a failure? Teams that have those low expectations and then surpass those expectations, I don't think they call that season a failure because they weren't expecting to go anywhere. So that's where I kind of draw the line. And I like what Giannis did say about Jordan. He won 6 championships. He played how many years is he played 15. He played 15 years, where those other 9 years of failure.
Right.
And I heard people say, well, if you ask Jordan, because Jordan was just on a different level, he would say yes.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many levels to this, Matt. I think if you're not expected to, all right, hypothetically, I know this will never happen, probably in our lifetime. If the Rockies were to somehow make the playoffs this season after such an abysmal start and get bounced in the wild card round, I don't think it's a failure because just how crappy this team has been.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, and I think, and I agree with Giannis's sentiment and what he said, because overall, and just like you said, there are instances where there is that you look at it as, hey, that was a hell of a season, that was a great season, it wasn't a failure at all, and I even tell my kids now, middle school, high school kids that I'm talking to, even my son, my own sons, my own kids, my nephews, my nieces, you're not losing, you're learning. Whenever you lose, you don't get defeated, you learn, because you get better and better and better. And I can't remember who, somebody else said this too, that they've learned a lot because they've lost a lot. I think Jordan might even have said something like that too. He's learned a lot because he lost a lot. And when it looks like, when you come down to that, yeah, it's a learning process, and you never fail. You always learn something. If you can learn something, you never fail. But when you're looking at it in a black and white situation where you're the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, the number one team in basketball, you secured that title. And yeah, you got hurt, but we both of us picked this team to even still beat Miami, even when they were hurt. And your team didn't didn't do the things that it needed to do. It didn't learn the lessons that it should have learned from the games prior to this game where the Milwaukee lost. There was a lot of mistakes down towards the end of the game, whether you want to call it coaching or players individual. Maybe players didn't play as good as they thought they were going to be. Drew Holiday's talking about he's going to retire in a couple seasons now. So when it comes to Milwaukee specifically, and their season could it be deemed as a failure? I think Giannis could have said yes, but still still did his spiel of everything he said, and it would have been right. But yeah, I in my opinion, when you're a professional athlete and you're at the highest of the highest level you can achieve with your team and your individual career, and you lose to a team that barely made the play-in, when that, to me, that is considered a failure. It's okay to can say that that's a failure. Where do you learn from that besides being embarrassed in your pride and never letting that happen again? I think that this is disastrous for the Milwaukee Bucks, because you could lose the majority of those players. It's not like that they came out. Chris Middleton scored 33 points. Giannis had 38. Lopez had 18. It was down the stretch where the issues were made, where the failures made, and that was either with the coaching staff or not making shots or not playing as good. But if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks season as a whole, yeah, it's a failure. But you can still say, hey, we learned something, we'll go forward. But in the whole, I just sounded like what was that the preparation H, you know what I'm talking about? Goldfinger, whatever, that Austin Powers. And the whole, it's a failure. Yeah. Sorry, that was long-winded.
No, you're good. And I think it was a failure for the Milwaukee Bucks being such a high seed. I guess it comes down to, different teams' expectations and circumstances. And when you're the number one seed, the best record in the NBA, I would consider that a failure. Yeah. And I get Giannis is a good face for the league, and he's going to say the right things, and he didn't want to get too personal with that reporter, and so
he could have totally blew that guy up, because that guy asked him the same question. He said it asked him last year or the year before or whatever. But yeah,
so wanted to get to that really quickly. All right, man, let's close out the show. And if you missed it, Keith and the guys were on for 3 straight days covering this draft. So go back and see what they had to say about it. But we'll touch on it here just a little bit, and that's Broncos move up into the I would say late second round, and it was a decent pick, and it had me wondering because they make a trade, they obtain the number 63rd overall pick, and then they go with Marvin Mims, wide receiver from Oklahoma, and you're thinking, well, that means either the end of somebody in that wide receiver room. I don't know if it's Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, probably most likely KJ Hamler. I would assume just because I think he's the odd
Yeah.
man out. He gets the short end of the stick, coming off an injury and stuff like that. What was your make of this selection? What grade do you give it? Well, I mean, was it smart to, I guess, move up in the draft and take a wide receiver?
Man, I was, and we've talked about this, like, man, what do we do with this draft? Because I've kind of paid attention, but not really. And with the Broncos, there's so many people had their mocks out there, and they got them taking O line, center, edge rusher. Like there was just so much hoopla, blah 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 out there. I was like, it was hard for me to wrap my head around everything that's going on. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit back and watch this. And when they drafted Mims and everybody started losing their brain, well, everybody's losing their brain because they weren't trading up to get one of those tight ends. So when they drafted Mims and everybody's like, and they're freaking out because it wasn't a center or an O lineman, I started to chuckle because it showed you right there that these two, Peyton and Peyton, they're looking at this in a different situation. They're looking at it differently by they were going to get their guy. And what I've been reading and listening to their it's hard to hear what they say anymore because they don't say a lot. So you have to really listen. They're just trying to make this team better, man. They filled a lot of their needs for free agency, and they're going to do it even further down the road when we get closer to training camp and all that stuff, when other guys start to get released and you see all that moving around. I think you're going to see different guys in here. But what they did with the draft is they went out and this was a pretty deep draft from the way it looks. And I wouldn't mind it if my team or the Broncos in particular picked in the third round, second round, where they have every year, because they can sit back and not get involved with the overdrafting of a guy, or if this guy's going to be there's probably a good chance most of our guys aren't going to be there anyway. So let's focus on these guys. And I think that's what gave them a little bit better approach. I give it a B, just because it looks like they got guys that can freaking play, that can add to the game next year. That linebacker they got from Arkansas, that I watched that guy in a handful of games, and I didn't do any research or nothing. I'm just seeing him in the game. That guy can play in the umbrella. And what I mean by the umbrella, between the running backs and the linebackers, there's a little umbrella. That dude is a monster in there. He can be an outside linebacker, inside linebacker. And then the kid they got from Iowa, the cornerback or the safety, he can play immediately. They got guys that can play immediately and can contribute to this team, especially on the defensive end. That's going to be a smart doggy defense next year. I mean, I'm excited for that defense. So I would give it a B, just because I can't give it an A because I don't know if these guys are going to actually contribute. But as far as what they got from where they were, I give it a B. I give it a B. And again, we didn't really dive into this draft. I know I'm too obsessed with the basketball right now, so I wasn't really into it. But I know from what I've watched from the guys that I have just watching college football last year and seeing these guys play, they got some dogs on that defense.
Yeah, and the linebacker that you referenced just a couple picks later with the 67th overall pick, they take Drew Sanders, the linebacker out of Arkansas. And I saw somebody post this, that, kind of their, I guess, quote unquote, starting linebackers as it stands right now, Matt, is Josie Jewell, who's, I think I saw that he was only 6'1", 6'2". Sanders is 6'3", I think, 6'4"-ish, around that area. So he's a big guy. I don't know how much that's, I don't know how much height really impacts the way you're going to play, but as you mentioned, maybe dogs on this defense, and that's what they were missing. I thought linebacker would have been sort of more of a point of emphasis in this draft, but again, I think you and I are safe. I did watch the entire first round, helping social media post all these picks and then moving on to just posting Broncos picks, but I did watch the entire first round. But to look at these guys and really comment on them as they're being drafted would have been way too much of a stress for me. Like you said, I'm too locked in on the NBA and NHL playoffs. And then, 20 picks later, 83rd overall, consequently a trade with the Seahawks. They take the cornerback Riley Moss from Iowa. So as you mentioned, maybe these guys can start immediately, maybe by the halfway point, maybe was just maybe we'll see. Obviously, special teams is going to play a big point in all of these players. All of these players playing time. And then, moving up to the 183rd overall pick, sixth rounder, they get another defensive guy, safety out of Boise State, JL Skinner.
Yep.
So he's another guy on this defense. And then they make that trade for Adam Troutman from Seattle. What did you make of that trade? Obviously, another former Saint. Keith on our comment said the move of the draft was getting Troutman from the Saints. They send the 195th overall pick to the Saints for Troutman and another draft pick. What did you make of that trade?
That was huge because Peyton drafted him in 2020. I'm pretty sure, if I can remember right, and he's still kind of like the thing with the tight ends, and if you look at the trend with what the Broncos are doing, is they're getting guys that can block first. Yeah, you got Dulcich that's here already. But they're getting guys that block first and that maybe can catch second. And Troutman is still young enough in his development that that maybe that's a goal that they're going to want to develop him more into a pass catcher. The blocking's already there, and develop him more into the pass catcher. You're going to see a lot of sets with multiple tight ends, and the running backs too. Like that the running game is going to get better because of these tight ends. So I'm excited to see what he does. And the center that they drafted from Oregon, if you watched any Pac-12 games, that dude was pretty freaking good. Now I don't know if he's going to come in because everybody wants him wants to get rid of Cushenberry, and I know he hasn't looked the best, but if you got to see what he looks like in this offense is the best way I want to say it. Is you want to see what he looks like in this offense in the Peyton system. So yeah, this draft overall, you got contributors, you got guys that are going to contribute. Mims is probably going to be a punt returner. He's probably going to, like you just said on special teams, he's probably going to be in there. And we don't know what's going to happen with these other receivers yet. We don't know if they're going to trade these guys yet. I don't know if they are. They keep the way that they say things, man. I love how the way that they say things, because they're not giving anybody any type of breadcrumbs. There's nothing. So I'm kind of enjoying that, but I'm excited to see what Peyton and Peyton do moving forward. Like it's really looking to shape into a different type of their style of football team. It's almost very similar to what they're doing up in Boulder. Very, very similar.
Yeah, cleaning house pretty much. And we mentioned Troutman, the tight end they got from the Saints. Does that mean or spell the end of Alberto? Because there's been a lot of speculation that he may be dealt, in the next coming months or sometime before the season. I think I saw that Miami was interested in obtaining Alberto services. But does this officially spell the end of him?
I don't know. I think that's still there. That's always a possibility because you mentioned Miami. I know Miami was sniffing around there, and just to see what they can get from him. But you saw Rosberg at the end of the year was kind of like, well, we don't know what was going on with this guy. Why was this guy, shunned apparently from the team? So it's very, very interesting. I know they got, what do they got? At least like 3 or 4 tight ends over there. Cause didn't they acquire another tight end from, or was that an O lineman that they got from the Saints earlier too? So that tight end room, man, I think it's you could see some players get dealt or just plain out cut, Peyton's got his own luggage too, I guess,
Yeah. And I saw, I guess a lot of experts, quote unquote, or, guys on the radio saying that even Troutman has a higher ceiling than Dulcich. So that could be something to look out for.
Yep.
But, when you play, there may not be room for maybe Alberto on this. Yeah, and it was thank you, Keith. It was Manhurts who they picked up in free agency.
Yep,
So
yep.
you got Alberto, you got Troutman, you got Dulcich, and now you got Manhurts. I mean, there's got to be an odd man out at some point, right?
Yeah, it would look that way. And I mean, you remember Jimmy Graham with the Saints. He still blocked. You don't remember Jimmy Graham as a blocker. You don't remember Jimmy Graham is doing that stuff, doing the dirty stuff. You just remember him catching touchdown passes. And Dulcich is kind of that guy with the passing, but does he block as much? So yeah, you're right. If you look at the writing on the wall, if you're those tight ends that were still here, like Ogwegbanam or Dulcich, and it's like, hey, they're bringing a lot of guys in here that can do one thing really well, and the other thing is they're not really, there's kind of like a pattern here. So yeah, I guess that's something we'll see, man. That's something that we'll see if they can trade one of these guys or if that's the way they're going to roll. But Peyton definitely is. If you're watching it, he's definitely doing what he wants to do and what he needs. And it cracks me up with a lot of these bloggers and a lot of these podcast stuff. They come out and they go off of the basic A, B, C, D stuff of what a football team should look like. And that's not what these guys are doing at all. At all. You just look at the draft. It's not what they're doing at all. You look at free agency. It's not what these guys are doing at all. They're doing what they want to do, and Peyton's doing something totally different that we haven't seen here in quite some time.
Yeah, and I would lean towards Alberto being the odd man out because he's not a Peyton guy, but neither is Dulcich, but he's still young enough in his development that I guess that Sean Payton can kind of swing him in his direction. And because Dulcich missed a lot of time last year, so he didn't even get to play that much. It was, bad offense, bad season. So maybe he still has enough development left to where Peyton can make him his guy. I don't know if Albert O is just stuck in his ways of like you mentioned, being shunned. I don't know if that's going to affect him, but
Dulcich looks like a Peyton guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, maybe it's the hair, maybe it's the porn stash. I don't know what it is. But you mentioned the center they got from Oregon, and there was the 257th pick that they got in that trade that we mentioned earlier. And yeah, Alex Forsythe, the center from Oregon, like you mentioned as well, everyone's kind of done with Cushenberry at center. I don't really – do you see Cushenberry being forced out or pushed out this season, or do they let Forsythe sit a year?
I think he gets a shot. I think Cushenberry gets a shot to run it this year. Because he can move. He's fast and he can move. And I like the way he can get off. And I felt like he was directing stuff. There was a little bit of a not knowing what they're doing as far coming from the coaching staff last year that I think didn't help Cushenberry. It didn't help the way Russell Westbrook. See, here we go. I got basketball on the mind. What Russell Wilson of how he played, it didn't help Cushenberry at all. So I think they're going to give him opportunity again. Like I want to see what he looks like in this offense. I want to see what he looks like with Sean Payton giving him the directions instead of somebody else. So I think they give him a shot. I think they give him an opportunity. Now, how short is that leash and how quick does this rookie come up or do they add somebody else? That's that we don't know yet. So they still could, there could be a guy out there that gets cut. You know how those veteran cuts come down during training camp or before training camp. You could see one of those guys get cut, a center get cut, and then we snatch him up. So we'll see how that goes. But I think they give him a chance at least this year, Cushenberry. I like him. I still like the kid.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. Maybe it's a training camp battle. I don't know if teams.
We got to make shirts that say center training camp battle, the center battle.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't really know how many teams have training camp battles for center, but you could see that. Who knows what Sean Payton is going to do? So really quickly before we get out of here, Matt. So I guess the Russell Wilson trade is officially complete now that this draft is over. I actually saw a lot of people saying, it kind of made, I know a lot of people are still upset about the Russell Wilson trade, but it kind of made a lot of people, I don't want to say at ease, but a lot of people settle down a little bit that the Seattle drafted a cornerback with that pick. So what did you make of that? And that kind of have you not a sigh of relief, but say, really, Seattle, you made that pick with that position in the draft?
Yeah, man. A lot of people were thinking, I guess it really, it looks, you can look at it from a couple ways, that the quarterback that they wanted or they could have went with wasn't there. Cause I think Anthony Richardson was gone by then, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they were looking at him. They weren't going to waste that pick on Will Levis. So yeah, they take a cornerback and I don't think because that's what the Broncos were really afraid of. Bronco fans were afraid of, because another pick could be used on as a quarterback. But you could say that the pick they traded with Detroit, they used to get Hendon Hooker. So now the Broncos could be tied to Hendon Hooker if he turns out to be good. But yeah, I think Seattle, for the most part, I don't know how long Pete Carroll's going to coach. They could be setting up for the future and loading up on the defense, loading up on that stuff. And if Geno Smith comes out and is crap this year, or he finally got the message that he was supposed to retire last year or whatever, then that sets him up for, because everybody that doesn't have a quarterback that wants a quarterback right now, they're looking at Caleb Williams. They're looking to set themselves up to be in that position, because he's supposed to be better than all the guys that came out this year, and he's gonna have another year in college. So that's kind of what they're setting up for us. I could see Seattle doing that. What really screwed me up is they drafted that running back when they got Kenneth Walker back there. That's a freaking monster. That was interesting. And real quick, what do you make of the Detroit Lion draft? Did you notice anything there? I mean, I know they were getting a lot of crap for how they drafted and who they drafted, and then they traded for Swift. Like, there was a lot of stuff that Detroit did. What did you think about that?
I was honestly surprised that they traded DeAndre Swift. I want to say, well, Houston, I think, won the draft.
Houston was
but
masterful.
I think Philadelphia is right. I mean, Philadelphia got better somehow, and they made it to the Super Bowl, and they got DeAndre Swift to add to a running back room, with Miles Sanders and such. It is, I don't know. I was really surprised that Detroit traded DeAndre Swift, to be honest with you.
That was crazy, man. The way that they did all that, and the way Philly drafted nothing but Georgia Bulldogs, that's going to come down as like, hey, could this be something that they do in the future? Like, other teams just draft everybody from a one side of the ball on the national championship team?
Yeah, crazy. All right, before we get out of here, some bits of news just coming down. This per Adam Schefter, NFL is targeting May 11th as the date to release the 2023 schedule. So be on the lookout for this. And then we mentioned Megan Angley from DNVR Avalanche. She just posted that Brad Hunt has been recalled by the Colorado Avalanche. So we will see Brad Hunt, not Curtis McDermott, in the lineup for the Avs tonight. Once again, Game 7. Avs and Kraken get down. Puck drop around 7:30, so that'll mean probably around 8, as they like to do. Unless there's a game before them. I don't know if there's a game before them, so it might be a 7:30 sharp puck drop, Matt. Mountain time, that is. So unless they're the only game, no, excuse me, there is a game before them. Florida and Boston.
Florida and Boston, yep.
It will depend on, I don't understand why they, I guess because the NBA is scheduled too. So there's a game before them. So probably around, I would say 7:45, 7:50 puck drop, closer to that time. So be on the lookout for that. In the NBA, once again, Game 7, Kings and Warriors, who will fight to stay alive and go face the Lakers. And then once again, we just mentioned Florida and Boston fighting for the right to move on in that Game 7. So a lot of playoffs going on. Obviously, we had the NFL draft this weekend as well. And if you missed any of the grades or thoughts on Broncos draft or just the draft in general, go check out our Facebook page, the Rocky Mountain Sports Facebook page, as the guys were on what seemed like they just went overnight, Matt. So
that's rough. I remember we tried to do that, or we did one night, and that was tough.
Round 1, yeah. And yeah, I was dead.
It was tough.
And especially to do round 1 without any Broncos picks, that's even got to be rougher.
I couldn't do it. That's the biggest reason why I was like, man, that's tough, because there's no Broncos.
Yeah, so shout out
my Packers. I feel like my Packers had a good draft too.
I was gonna say, your boys in New York now.
Yeah, Aaron. Well, he's a New York Jet. I could give two bleeps about that number 8 over there. He can go over there and get yelled at by the New York media and just be so sensitive and stuff like that. But hey, it's all about the love. Give them the love, baby.
There you go.
Give them the love.
The love era out there in Cheesehead land. So we will see what that brings the Green Bay Packers and the New York Jets, for that matter. But yeah, to do a full day. Shout out to Keith and those guys for
shout out to those Warriors.
Yeah, I can imagine the bottles of water they had sitting next to him to get through that many hours of talking. Really quickly here, Will Levis. I think I saw they showed him 38 times in the green room waiting to be drafted, and
just to see his girlfriend.
Yeah, his girlfriend, the dude that the Packers drafted. So many hot sisters, I want to say. I think even one of the moms was attractive. So
yes,
there you go.
Yes, that has become one of my favorite draft times, and especially you see the dads. They get the hugs on the like. If I'm glad I've never drafted. I mean, I don't know if I would have been ever drafted in any situation, but to have your girlfriend be on there and slap high fives and everything, and then your dad give a hug. Did you see this? The girlfriend and then the dad smacked her on the butt a couple times. It's like you got to pay attention. There's cameras everywhere.
Yeah. So and then Will Levis was pumped when Tennessee drafted him early in the second round. And it's going to be interesting in Tennessee. You got 3 quarterbacks on the roster. I think I saw Mike Vrabel came out and said, Tannehill's the starter, Willis is the second, and Will Levis is the third, which kind of weird that you moved up to draft a quarterback when your quarterback room is kind of full.
And did you hear what he said too after that? He goes, that's what it looks like now. By the beginning of the season, that could change.
Well, yeah, obviously. But now –
because they're out on Malik Willis, apparently. Will Levis, man – I'm curious to see what that dude, because I feel like that dude. He could run. Do you ever remember The Program? That movie, The Program, the football movie. Remember the dude that took all those steroids and was just crazy? Like that's what Will Levis. I'm not saying he takes steroids, but that's who he reminds me of.
So there you go.
At quarterback, at the quarterback position, my God,
absolute beast. All right. We will get out of here. Thanks for everyone for tuning in, commenting. Once again, you can catch the show later on wherever you get your podcast. Obviously, the video will remain up on the Facebook page, Elevation 5280 Sports, and the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Go like the Instagram page at Rocky MTNSN, and on the Twitterverse as well, at RM Sports Network. Follow Matt at Matt Mascarenas1, me at Michael Spillane, or at 5280 Sports Radio, and again YouTube as well. It's the same as the Twitter at 5280 Sports Radio. Thanks for Myron for joining us earlier to talk about the Avs. Once again, Game 7 tonight. Nuggs in the midst of their second round series with the Phoenix Suns. So much going on and so much to talk about. Stay tuned to the socials throughout the week, and Denver Bronco Roundup. Once again, they'll probably be recapping more of the draft coming up on Tuesday, so stay tuned for that. But we're going to get out of here for Matt Mascarenas. I am Michael Spillane. We will talk to you next week.